Hello, everybody. I am so very, very sorry for being late. I promise I have a good excuse. And not only do I have a good excuse, I have a weird excuse. I have, in fact, a nerd excuse. It's like an incredible nerd excuse. I can't even believe I'm saying this and that it's true. Um, I was supposed to be in Las Vegas this weekend, but given the last month, you could probably understand why that turned out not to be a great idea. But why was I going to be in Las Vegas? I was asked to be in a Star Trek panel. Yep. I don't know if anybody remembers this or is aware of it, but about a year ago, my friend Bob Seska and I, who has his own podcast called the Bob Seska Show, he's a great guy. We were just, I don't know, we were suffering from a bit of a malaise and just so frustrated about the political environment and how bad everything seemed. And we knew that we were both Star Trek nerds, so we were talking about Star Trek, and I think I was it was like during his show, I was a guest on his show, and I think at the end of the show, I said, "Hey, why don't we just start a podcast about Star Trek?" And we did, and it was called Trek Politics. We had like these incredible guests: Terry Matalas, Tim Russ, I'm gonna forget because it was like such an embarrassment of riches. Todd Stashwick. Um, I'll remember there were so many more. Jerry Ryan. I'll keep remembering them as they come to me, because it was just Kurt Acevedo. Seriously, Mary McDonald was on deck, and then the writer's strike happened. So, in solidarity, we stopped doing the show, and then everybody went on strike. Uh, yeah, sadly, Trek Politics got had an untimely end. I'm hoping it comes back, but obviously, you know, it's not happening until after the election. We need to get through the next few months intact, and then we'll see. But anyway, I was just on a panel that was moderated by Mark Altman. Um, and it was just incredible. I mean, the energy, it's a little weird. Like, I didn't realize, I thought when I told them I wasn't going to be able to be there in person, that I wasn't going to be able to be there at all. Right. But they just made a workaround and they made it happen. So, unfortunately, I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see the panelists, and I couldn't see um the audience, but I could hear them and they could see and hear me. So that was cool. And I mean, the panel was just incredible. It was me and Bob. It was, again, Tim Russ. It was Mary McDonald. It was Ande Kindred, who's just incredible. She was an assistant to Dean Koontz and the original, sorry, not Dean, Gene Kuhn, the original series. She's just incredible. Um, I mean, it was such an honor to be a part of it, even though remotely. Um, and it was a little safer. So, did I say Tim Russ? Yeah, I think I did say Tim Russ. Anyway, it was like it was as close to, if I'd been there in person, it would have been a dream come true. But it was the next best thing. So I don't know if it was recorded, but if it was, I'll share it with you. If I get a hold of it. So that's why I'm late. I hope that's a good nerd excuse. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being so patient. I love that you guys have been chatting the whole time. I've been unavailable. And thank you to our moderators who do such a great job of keeping everybody informed and keeping the energy up and keeping the bad guys out. So Lori, for example, and Susan, thank you. Okay, so it's Ask Mary Anything within reason. Uh, I Anybody feel like yet again this week has been the equivalent of several billion decades? I don't know. It's just it's not always for bad reasons, right? I mean, I would say the 3 weeks between the debate and President Biden's announcement were felt very, very long for bad reasons, for very bad reasons. However, just in case you didn't take this in, because I certainly didn't. It was 2 weeks ago today that President Biden made his announcement that he was not seeking reelection. 2 weeks. So you would be forgiven if you thought it was a year or something. I mean, just incredible. The reason it seems so long, though, is not because it's bad and we're stressed out and it feels like the Democratic Party is falling apart and coming apart at the seams, and the uncertainty is just stressing us out. No, it feels long because so much has happened and almost all of it's good. When's the last time that was a thing, right? I could get used to this hopeful, happy stuff to laugh about, feel good about, right? Ah, Jeez, it's just such a nice change, and it kind of it should remind us just what a state of deprivation we've been living in, right? Huh. It just I don't know. It's just incredible. And again, I was 100% behind President Biden. However, he read the room, and I think he understood that this is what needed to happen, but in this very specific way. We needed to change the terms of the contest. And he did. Even better, Donald and his team continue to flail. They continue to be incapable of finding their footing after having been knocked on their heels. So this is all good for us. So um I have some, it is funny. Somebody just mentioned this. It's kind of weird. Every time I check the YouTube page, a video on our YouTube page, it's a Donald Trump ad. I mean, maybe it's the algorithm because we have the same name. I don't know, but it's really quite disturbing. Just quick, somebody just asked about Judge Chutkan's ruling. This morning. I have not had a chance to look at it. However, what I will say is this: Judge Chutkan has been prepared to have this case kicked back to her. She was ready, and she is ready to go. So I think the parties have days to respond, and I do not believe that, sadly, that this trial will even get started before the election because of the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority on the Supreme Court. However, a lot of the pre-trial stuff will be gotten through, and that will give the American people some insight into the case against Donald, and that's very important. So before I get to questions, I just wanted to set up what we're looking at. We hear all the time about the honeymoon phase, whether it's a relationship or it's a presidency, or like in the presidency, it's the first 100 days, right? What's the agenda, and how is the new president going to take advantage of all the goodwill? And in a campaign, it's when the campaign is announced. I think there are two things going on. One is this has never happened in American history before, that we get a new candidate during the campaign. And two, the campaign season has now been compressed, which I think is a very good thing. It's absurd. Other countries have call their elections in 30 days later, 60 days later, 90 days later. For us, our election's like 2 years long. It's absurd. Sometimes it's almost like the re-election starts as soon as the election's over, right? So why do I think that this isn't a honeymoon phase, then or that this is the honeymoon phase will last until the election, or it's just the way it's going to be? Just briefly, my thoughts on Roger Stone is that he's a criminal and he's corrupt and he should be in prison. That's pretty much how I feel about Roger Stone. And he's been disastrous for this country. There's no reason to think that Democrats are going to slow down at all. Yeah, there are going to be attacks. I mean, we're hearing it already, these sexist attacks. Kamala Harris is a bad boss. Somebody who would not go on the record has said that she was mean to them once, or she's used racist language. By the way, we live in America. It is not possible for a Black American. I mean, I don't know what the specific charges. I don't care. We're going to hear all that kind of stuff. And, they are desperate on the right. They're going to throw absolutely everything at her. We need to put our blinders on. I don't mean we need to ignore the dangerous stuff, but we need to ignore the sort of petty, unsourced attacks that are just kind of meant to like taint her, right? But here we are, 2 weeks out. She raised more money in like 5 minutes than Donald has in the entire month of July. Even though I don't give a shit about this because it's moronic and immature, her crowd sizes are bigger than Donald's. He's having trouble filling seats. She is not. And that's not going to change. He's getting boring. He's getting repetitive. I mean, that's been the case for a long time. But he's going to get worse. She's going to get stronger. And we're going to see the momentum continue in her direction as he continues to flail, because part of the problem they have is that they don't understand why they're in this situation. They can't pivot. They just can't figure out how to do it without being such horrible racists and misogynists that people are taking note. So then we have, I'm guessing based on friend and fellow Nerd Avenger Jen Taub's assessment that the announcement of Harris's VP will happen tomorrow. 2 weeks after that, we have the Democratic debate in Chicago. I'm calling it right now. It will be, this is going to sound like something Donald would say, but in this case, it happens to be true. It will be like nothing we have ever seen before, because not only are Democrats more united than that I think they've ever been in my lifetime, they're more energized, they're more hopeful. And I mean, like, even more than for Barack Obama, because of the context in which all of this is unfolding. This country is in danger. We needed something huge to shift, and it has. So Democrats are going to get to Chicago and just be out of their minds with joy. It will be electric. It should have been for Hillary Clinton, but there was some infighting there that had a very serious negative impact on some things. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen here. Plus, that convention is going to be just an absolute love fest for President Biden. It will be a way to honor his extraordinary career, his even more extraordinary presidency, his bravery, his decency. Like, that's not even enough. That's not a big enough word. So that's going to be happening. And then our very first Black woman candidate for the presidency. Oh, wait, that's not true. Sorry. Well, official. I was thinking Shirley Chisholm ran, which obviously she wasn't picked, although she should have been. Our first official Democratic candidate who's a Black woman. I mean, come on. It's like the writers finally got it right, is what I'll say. So that's the next 2.5 weeks. That brings us to the end of August. And we have the debate. Or do we? Who can say? So let's talk about the debate a little bit. I got a lot of questions about, well, sorry, let me switch it up, because I've got a lot of questions about the vice presidency, the vice presidential pick, and I got a lot of questions about the debate. So let me start with the vice presidency, since that's happening first. So I honestly don't care who she picks. I don't care. I have preferences, definitely. I think let's assume for the time being, because I think this is an accurate pick. I mean, an accurate list. We have 4 potential realistic candidates. Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania. Tim Walz, governor of a state that starts with M, that I think is Minnesota. Sorry, Tim. Mark Kelly, Democratic senator in Arizona. And Andy Beshear, governor of the extraordinarily red state, Kentucky. Now, I think Beshear is not going to make the cut, because somebody told me, and I hadn't thought of this before, and I think it's such a great point. He's a Democrat winning statewide elections in a blood red state. Think he could run against Mitch McConnell? Or, sorry, you think he could run for McConnell's seat when McConnell retires and it's an open seat? I think that's worth keeping him free for, don't you? I mean, come on. That would be, and why not? It's a statewide race. Beshear has won it. I love keeping Andy Beshear in the pocket for that, right? And then I think that, I've heard pluses and minuses for all of them. I've heard that all of them are the front runner. None of them is a front runner, but we'll know soon. Right now, it's just speculation. The most important thing to remember about this decision is that through the vetting process, during that process, when names were being floated, and it was names like Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer and Pete Buttigieg and all of the people I already spoke about, the governor of North Carolina, who's Roy Cooper, who took himself out of the running. Lots of names being floated. I would have been cool with any of them, probably. The reason it made me so happy, though, that discussion, was because the Democrats have such a deep bench. The Republicans came up with J.D. Vance. I mean, come on. And somebody said that Pete Buttigieg won't be picked because he's gay, and I sadly think that that is definitely a reason because, you know, one other at a time in America. I mean, it's quite sad actually. We're quite sad. If we like it couldn't have been a woman either. Um but honestly, I think that Buttigieg he's too young and too inexperienced. We need somebody who has more experience and can I mean, I'm not saying Buttigieg couldn't do this, but we need somebody with more experience, executive experience, and he really doesn't have much of any. So anyway, that's my VP. Those are my thoughts on the VP pick. Don't care whoever it is, it's going to be awesome, and well, it's going to help the ticket. As long as that person is an attack dog for Vice President Harris, I'm totally down with it. And that's, I mean, yeah. So the debate. You may have heard that there was supposed to be a debate hosted by ABC on, I believe, September 10th, which is funny because that's the day my new book is coming out. So it was going to be a very busy day for me. So now we don't know because Donald is a coward and he's afraid of Kamala Harris. And on some very deep unconscious level, he knows that she'll destroy him in a debate, rhetorically speaking. She will run circles around him. And I mean, this is my hope, but she's done it before. She'll refer to him as Donald. She'll mock him, hopefully. She won't let him get away with anything. And, I am a firm believer that fact checking should not have to be done by the debaters themselves. That is absurd. How? How do you fact check Donald Trump in real time if you're his opponent and all he has to say is, "You're wrong, I'm right"? How is that fact checking? That's just making it an opinion, or that's making it, well, oh, let's agree to disagree that Democrats murder babies in the 9th month. No, you need an objective third party doing that kind of fact checking. So I think that what Vice President Harris would do would just stop him in his tracks and not let him continue the so-called Gish Gallop and not let it go on until the lies are exposed and he stops lying. That's why he's not showing up. So when he tells people that he's agreed to have the debate on Fox on, I think, September 4th, that's total nonsense and it's a lie. He didn't choose that. He chickened out of the debate he had agreed to because he's a coward. The fact that the New York Times echoed the sentiment that he, Donald, chose to have the debate at Fox is just another example of how the New York Times is failing all of us. I don't know. I mean, I think we just have to just rely on independent media at this point because the Washington Post and the New York Times have not been covering themselves in glory recently. I mean, I'm sure you saw some of the headlines in the wake of Donald's just despicable, out of control racism at the National Association of Black Journalists, which both the New York Times and the Washington Post seem not to know how to handle. And they somehow made Donald's racism Kamala Harris's fault, which was fascinating. Anyway, I don't know whether or not there will be. Well, I mean, I would be shocked if Vice President Harris would agree to change the terms of the debate. Why should she? A Fox debate, one, legitimizes Fox. Two, would be, according to Donald, it would be everything he wants. No fact checking, a huge arena sized venue with an audience. And, I joked earlier that the people in the audience would probably be all, pro Donald, and they'd have cowbells that they would ring anytime Kamala Harris tried to open her mouth. And of course, the moderators would themselves be biased. So that doesn't make any sense. I've heard that ABC has said that whoever shows up will get that allotted time. So if Donald doesn't show to the ABC debate, but Kamala Harris does, she will have 2 hours unimpeded to make her case. I'm guessing they'll ask questions. That would make more sense. And that would be some small measure of recompense for the billions of dollars in in-kind contributions corporate media gave to Donald, especially in the 2016 election, but also in the 2020 election. I also hope he doesn't show up. And this was my feeling before the debate with President Harris. Sorry. Oh, look at that. I'm already getting used to it. President Harris. How cool does that sound? President Kamala Harris. It's a beautiful thing. Before the debate with President Biden, I actually didn't want President Biden to have a debate with Donald, not because I knew what was going to happen, but because I felt like that was a way of legitimizing Donald, who is a traitor to this country and doesn't deserve to be on the same stage with our president. Nobody listened to me. So weird. Kind of in retrospect, doesn't that seem like a good idea? So I think Kamala Harris is in a slightly different situation because she can make that case to his face and fluster him in a way that I don't think President Biden could have. Part of it is because she's a prosecutor. She'll take a prosecutorial approach. And part of it is because, she has that energy. And I don't think she's bound. I think to some degree, as great a president as he's been, as progressive as a president as he's been, I think President Biden is still bound by certain traditions that are not helpful in these very dark times, So I think it would be a completely different situation, and Donald probably knows that too. I'm thinking, because he's not. It's hard for me to imagine what kind of circumstance would need to happen in order for Donald to show up to debate with Kamala Harris. I think he's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Painted himself into that corner already. So, the other thing is, I'm sure you've noticed. Sorry, excuse me while I drink from my water bottle without looking strange. You might think I look strange while I'm drinking my water, but I'm doing it with reasonable amount of human coordination. I don't need both hands, for example. Have you noticed how jealous Donald seems to be these days? It's not just the crowd size. It's pretty much everything. She's getting all the attention. Right? I made that look easy. Not everybody can do that very, very complicated maneuver. There should be Olympics for drinking water from a bottle. An Olympic event. Oh, quick non sequitur. Just reminded me. I don't know if you guys know this, and it's not the most watched event in the Olympics, but the Ukrainian team took the gold in the saber event, fencing, and yeah, that moved me greatly, considering what the Ukrainians have been going through. So that was cool, and actually, their high jumper also got gold. So go Ukraine! I wish the Ukrainian people were getting the support they deserved from this country. That's what I have to say about that. Anyway, back to Donald's jealousy. He's jealous about all the attention she's getting, the quality of the attention she's getting, her crowd size, the energy of her crowd. I mean, just there's so many things to be jealous of. But one thing he's particularly fixating on is the entertainment. He like literally thinks it's cheating. Like her crowd size doesn't count because she had entertainers there. I mean, granted, it wasn't Kid Rock or it wasn't some mixed martial art guy who beats the shit out of his wife, you know. So maybe it shouldn't count. But yeah, those seats were full not because of Kamala Harris, but because she had people like Megan the Stallion, who's my daughter's favorite. And I have to say, oh my God, she's amazing. Well, guess what though, Donald? First of all, Megan the Stallion was there for like 4 minutes, and she was there because of Kamala Harris. Like she just didn't like random. She doesn't just randomly show up at auditoriums for anybody. So I wish I had a picture of this, but so at Donald's rally, which was last night in Atlanta, I think in the exact same venue, empty seats everywhere. They had like smoke shooting out of the floor to make him feel better. And it just reminded me of my grandfather after he got Alzheimer's. You know, he they deck it was just the weirdest thing. It happened before. Sorry, it happened before he had Alzheimer's, but I didn't know about it until after the whole thing. And his copy of his will had a was decorated with like ribbons and like a wax seal. It was the weirdest thing, and that's what I was reminded of last night, just like the shiny object stuff to make them feel better about themselves or to make them feel more important than other people. I don't know. It's just so yeah, I had smoke shooting out of the floor. I guess to compensate for the fact that the only entertainment he could get was like Chachi and Kevin Sorbo. Anyway, either way, whatever happens with the debate, it's a win for us. He shows up, she cleans his clock, metaphorically speaking. He doesn't show up, he's a coward who's afraid, in his vernacular, to debate a girl. Right? I mean, that's all there is to it. All right. So yeah, and the other thing, like if he's going with the Fox thing, he's being told by Fox that he can have anything he wants. You know, no muting of microphones. Again, huge loud crowds, biased moderators. I don't know that he would accept anything less at this point. But anyway, we will see. I'm so sorry. As I mentioned, I was at a Star Trek panel, so I didn't organize the to the degree that I would normally organize. Yeah, is somebody just pointing out that during the first debate, the moderators like didn't do anything when Donald just kept like attacking Biden even after his mic was cut. Because listen, when the mic is cut, we can't, the TV audience can't hear him, but President Biden could certainly hear him yelling and screaming and rambling. So, it's not exactly that helpful. I think they would need to put him in a cone of silence or so. Oh, that's a great idea. Huh. Where's Get Smart when you need him? I like that. Cone of silence. Cone of silence. Oh, this is going way too fast. Is it better that the US be described as a nation? Yeah, okay. Steve asked a question about, if it's better to describe the United States as a country where you're free to be a Christian or as a Christian nation. America is not a Christian nation. The only people saying that are a particular kind of extreme Christian. The founders made it very clear it's in the Constitution. There's a separation of church and state. You are free to believe as you choose, and there shall be no, what's the word? No something respecting religion. It is not the government's job to choose a religion. That's why, like, displaying the 10 commandments at the state house, that is unconstitutional. I mean, they keep trying to shove it down our throats, but it's unconstitutional because you do not put religious artifacts in front. You don't combine the two things. You just do not do it. That the right also includes the right not to believe. I mean, the line between church and state is fast eroding. To me, there's way too much religion in our government, and that also, I have to say, includes from the left. I don't like it. It makes me wildly uncomfortable. Obviously, on the right, it's much more extreme. And this is something that I recognized at the Republican convention. It's like they want their religion, their forms of entertainment everywhere in all of the spaces, right? We need their kind of prayer in school, on the football field, right? They need their wrestling and their whatever it's called, NASCAR in politics. Like that convention was like a WWE event. It was just like, come on, do you not get sick of it? Do you have to have it all over the place? Do you not want any space in which you are free from, like, seriously, like, don't you just want to, like, not think about wrestling or praying or the Bible or NASCAR? Like, don't you just want to, like, watch a movie or talk about politics or I don't know? The problem is they want to impose all of that on us too. Like, I guess you could say, well, if you want that stuff in your kids' schools, then guess what? There are religious schools that you can go to. You're just not allowed to turn our public schools into your version of that, right? You want to watch wrestling? I guess I don't know, but it shouldn't be everywhere. So it's a very weird. We live in very weird and troubled times, I have to say. I'm hoping is that we reach the nadir and we're heading back up. Anyway, scrolling. I wish I could talk and scroll at the same time, but then it's kind of hard to read. I could scroll and drink from my bottle of water at the same time. That would definitely be an Olympic event. Yeah, people just confirming that their moods have flipped in the last month. The last 2 weeks as well. I mean, it was almost this visceral thing. Like I felt it physically. Um, I've often felt despair physically in the last 8 years, but it was nice to feel joy physically. And it just sort of reminds me that how Donald has nicknames for all of the people he hates because he's weird in that way. All of the nicknames apply to him. Crooked Hillary, Lion Ted. Well, not all of them. Little Marco. Well, forget I said that. Crooked Hillary, Lion Ted, Sleepy Joe, right? One of them does not. And maybe like I haven't heard him use this recently. Laughing Kamala. That's the only one that doesn't apply to him. Fascinating stuff. Oops, that's weird. All right, give me some questions in the chat because I'm having some trouble for some reason pulling these up, and I do not know why. I mean, I was organized enough to put them somewhere, but for some reason, I'm having trouble scrolling down to them. But okay, here we go. No. This is very weird. I apologize for the technical difficulties. But okay, let's see. Yeah, somebody said just add the word hands to little Marco, and it would. And it's true. I have quite small hands. They I think small hands do run in my family. Somebody told me today that I actually look more like Donald than his children do. And as much as I hate to admit that, it's true. So why wouldn't we both also have very, very, very small hands? I'm just saying it's genetics are a thing. Yeah. Okay. Somebody brought up the whole Merry Christmas thing. Thank you for reminding me of that. During his rant/rally last night, first of all, just he spent more time attacking the Republican governor of Georgia, whom Donald hates simply because Brian Kemp wouldn't cheat and throw the election to him. So Donald, of course, hates him now, even though Brian Kemp is really Republican. He just doesn't believe in breaking the law in favor of one candidate, even if it's a candidate in his own party. So I guess credit where credit is due. Anyway, he spent more time attacking Brian Kemp than Kamala Harris. He talked a lot of nonsense, obviously, but as always, and maybe if it's even ramping up as he gets more desperate, he's adding to the list of things Kamala Harris / the Democrats are going to take away from all of you very paranoid people on the right. Donald has never been anywhere near an animal, except there was one time, I guess he was doing an ad or something in his office, and a bald eagle was involved, and the bald eagle almost took his hand off. Other than that, no, he's never had anything to do with animals. My grandparents they hated animals. I don't know, hated. I don't even know. They didn't even. My parents never. Sorry, my dad growing up, they had no animals in that family ever. And my dad was the only one of the 5 children who had pets after he moved out of the house. Okay, so he keeps telling people, you remember it used to be they're going to take away your guns. How many Democratic administrations later, and the number one killer of children in this country is guns? If we plan to take away people's guns, we're doing a really horrific job of it. If I were in charge, I would take away everybody's guns. But No Democrat. I don't think any Democrat could get elected with that position, quite honestly, which is hard, except maybe in New York. Horrible. Um, so now, and this is also an oldie but a goodie. We're going to make it illegal for people to say Merry Christmas. I want to know who came up with that, because it's so insulting. It's so stupid and infantile and insulting that it makes me a little crazy. I never say Merry Christmas to somebody unless I know for a fact that they celebrate Christmas, because I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. There are people who don't celebrate Christmas. And there are other religious holidays around the same time as Christmas. So saying happy holidays seems a reasonable thing if you don't know what holiday that person celebrates. However, when somebody says Merry Christmas to me, I'm not Christian. I actually do celebrate Christmas just because I think it's awesome, but I'm not Christian. I don't get offended. I don't get offended if somebody wishes me, well, actually, nobody's ever wished me happy Ramadan, but I wouldn't get offended. I wouldn't get offended if somebody wished me happy Hanukkah. Like, why? It's so nice that somebody's going out of their way to wish you a happy holiday, even if they're specifying what the holiday is. Like, it's so infuriating. And again, it's that whole we're a Christian country. No, we're not a Christian country. If you want to live in a Christian country, go to Italy, I guess. No, actually, don't go to Italy, because I want to go to Italy. We'll find you another Christian country. It just can't be this one. And actually, the kind of religious country they want this to be is more like Iran in terms of how oppressive and strict. But now, apparently, this started last year, and I don't know why. We're trying to take away people's gas stoves. Oh, and by the way, first of all, nobody's trying to take away anybody's gas stove. Not happening. I personally much prefer a gas stove. I don't like electric stoves. However, it turns out that there are reasons why one might not want to have a gas stove. They turn out not to be great for people with respiratory illnesses like asthma, which I have. Now, I don't cook enough for it to make a difference, but probably would have been better for me as a child not to have a gas stove in my house. I mean, I didn't want to get rid of the cats I was very allergic to, but I probably would have been totally cool getting rid of the gas stove. So it's just information for people to have when making a decision about things like that. Nobody is trying to take away your gas stove. And now the latest thing, maybe I'm behind the curve. Yes, right. And gas stoves aren't safe for parrots either. And again, I don't cook enough to make, and certain kinds of coating on pans, you have to be very careful. Isn't it good to have that information? Yes, it is. But now apparently we're trying to take away, well, I mean, we've known this for a while. We're definitely trying to take away cars that run on gas. Everybody has to have an electric car. Although he's now changed his mind a little bit because Elon Musk is supporting him. Okay, that's consistent. That's integrity. We're trying to take away people's red meat. I mean, I've heard that before, but the fact that that's what he's going with, and we're trying to take away all of the cows. Now, of course, I don't expect anybody, seriously, not on that side at this point, to care about why it might be bad to have cows running rampant all over the planet, why it might be a bad idea to destroy the rainforest so we have more grazing land for cows. I mean, come on. It's like there are reasons. It doesn't mean we're trying to outlaw eating steak. I think the thing that makes it so maddening is that, well, one, I mean, the basic thing that people are believing this, just unbelievable stuff. It's just so, who believes this? Well, people believe it. But worse, they like they're that Donald and people like him are just using fear as a political tactic. That's it. That is all these rallies are for. One, it's for him to kind of unload his grievances and to feel to get attention so he can reinflate his constantly deflating ego, right? But the main purpose of them is to keep people in a state of rage. It makes them very malleable, it makes them very susceptible, and it's literally all they've got. Lying and keeping people just churned up into this froth of rage. I think what we need to do is figure out oh yeah, we did get rid of Trump steaks, didn't we? Just because, like, who buys steaks from, what was it, like, Sharper Image or something? Like, that's not where I used to go. Well, I'm a vegetarian, but, like, that's not really where I would go to buy steak if I ate steak. So, yeah, so another failed Trump business, but that's not what that's just failing to sell steaks. That's not making it impossible or illegal for people to buy steaks. So we've got to figure out a way. This might sound weird, and it's not going to happen before the election, probably. We've got to figure out a way to show people on the other side that hope is a much better way to go than rage. That optimism and the belief in possibility is a much better way to go than fear. Sadly, I think we're a very, very long way away from that. Mario asked, under what circumstances, if any, would Donald quit the race? I literally can't think of any circumstances. And some of them are sort of external. He knows. I mean, I don't know if he necessarily believes it entirely, but he knows that the getting back into the Oval Office, and again, this is less of an emergency now thanks to the corrupt supermajority on the Supreme Court, but if he gets into the Oval Office, all of his trials go away. And so, somebody said, well, what about New York? He was convicted already. He was found guilty on 34 counts. I'm like, do you seriously think Donald is going to care? Like, what, you think he's voluntarily going to show up if he's sentenced to prison or something? No, of course not. Of course not. Plus, he's in a lot of financial difficulty as well. So being in the White House can be very lucrative if you're unscrupulous and have no morals. Guess who that applies to? So those are the very compelling external reasons. And then there is the psychological stuff, the unconscious stuff. Quitting is making an admission. It's making the admission you can't win, you're not good enough, whatever. And he's incapable of that. The only circumstance under which I could see is if there was some health issue over which he had no control. And as we saw with his COVID case, which was very, very serious, do not let anybody tell you otherwise. Anybody else who had a case of COVID that bad probably would have died because they would not have had access to the kind of healthcare he had. I mean, he was hospitalized for a very long time, surrounded by doctors who were giving him every kind of treatment they had at their disposal. None of us would have had that ability, and he almost died. And yet, he still tried to pretend that everything was cool, and he was on top of it. He was in control of it. Why? Because having COVID makes you weak. What makes you strong? Having COVID and conquering it. As if people succumb to it are just fucking losers and they deserve to die. Like, that's the way he thinks about these things. Right? So, as long as he has the slightest ability to try to, convince people that he's and again, he has a lot of resources and a lot at his disposal and a lot of people willing to help him pull it off. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but I remember it like it happened yesterday because it was, again, one of those things, not surprising, but still very shocking. He was still in the hospital. He was still very ill. And to prove his point, or I should say, to sell his lie that he was just fine, he got into a car with 3 Secret Service agents without a mask on, exposing them to the deadly disease he carried, which was still very, very much active in his system. And he had them drive him around through the crowds. I think part of it was that he needed the adoration, the adulation. He'd been, alone in a hospital room and that's his living nightmare, to be alone, away from people telling him how great he is. But he was breathing COVID all over these 3 men just to prove the lie that he was just fine. That's who he is. So, no, he's not voluntarily quitting this race. And I have to be completely honest with you. I think listen, nothing's a done deal. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. I'm thrilled that the Democrats have pulled together and are energized and all of that stuff. I don't think we could be in a better position. I'm still worried because they don't play fair. And this is not going to be easy. So we can hold both of those thoughts at the same time, right? No, my Uncle Robert did not die from COVID as far as I know. But then again, how would I know? I don't believe he did, but it's possible because you're right. That was in August of 2020, I think. So I'm hopeful and worried at the same time, optimistic and vigilant at the same time. But even though, yeah, I mean, it would be better if he dropped out because it would absolutely ensure a President Kamala Harris. I don't think they would be able to rally around a new person in time. Donald is just so willing to cheat in a way other people aren't. But since that's not happening anyway, I think the best outcome here is for Donald to run against Kamala Harris and for him to lose by a landslide. For him to lose so decisively that there is no coming back, that his political career is in ashes, that we get a bigger margin in the Senate. Please let it be a supermajority. That we take over the House by a huge margin. And he's humiliated so badly that he will just exit stage left and just seriously just when this is like, I don't want to talk about him. I don't want to think about him. I don't want to hear about him. I'm sure you all feel the same way. I think that would be the most just result. And I think that would be the most effective result for what needs to happen in this country. That's my take. Anyway, time is up. I am so grateful to you, one, for sticking around a little later than usual because I was late. But again, for like the best possible nerd reason, I was on a Star Trek panel. Seriously, I don't know that it gets any cooler than that. Or nerdier, or both. Okay, so we're just going to keep doing this every Sunday because I really like it and I like hanging out with just you guys and me. And something tells me the news cycle is not going to be slowing down before the election. So this way I get to answer your questions about all of the many, many very important things that are going on. Just a reminder, we're trying to grow our channel. I think we just may have hit 75,000 subscribers today, which is great because we haven't been doing it that long. However, we want to have maximum impact. This is, I know it will not surprise you to know, to hear, a crucially important time in this country. And, we want to reach as many, many people as we can. So please subscribe if you haven't. Also, you can like the episodes, watch all of the shows because they're amazing. The Nerd Avengers are amazing. We have individual nerds who have their own shows. Jen Taub's Morning Jen is fantastic. We have Danielle Moody and Waj Ali co-host Democracy-ish. Ali Samarco has America's Show. Brian Karam has Reverse Shot. Also, Danielle has started doing mini episodes called Get Woke, which are fantastic. So watch all of them, like all of them, but also share them with people because again, we're trying to get the word out, and you all who watch live, who comment, you are our rocks, and we count on you. So we would just we appreciate everything you do, and we would appreciate that as well. So we will be back. I don't know what day it is. I think it's Sunday. My goodness. Jen will be back with a Morning Jen episode tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern. And oh, I forgot to mention, like, I've been doing right now they're called Mary on, meaning Mary on something. Not well, no, that makes it sound like I'm on drugs, which I'm not because I don't do drugs. Like Mary on a particular topic. And basically what I do is I look at clips from whether press conferences or rallies or what have you, and then I analyze them. And I really like doing them, and I think they've been getting some good response. So I try to do those twice a day, morning and evening. So check those out as well. And that's our Monday show. The next Nerds, those are our Monday shows. The next Nerds is Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And of course, Morning Jen is every weekday, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern. Many more, but you get the gist. And we will continue to announce them ahead of time. And again, please subscribe, spread the word. I appreciate you. You guys are really, you are going to help us get where we need to go in November. So thank you for that and for everything else. Jen will see you tomorrow morning. I'll see you in my videos as well, and the Nerds Tuesday, 12 noon Eastern. Thank you again. In the meantime, please stay safe and be kind.